Hey guys, so today we are decluttering foundations and powders and concealers. So what I've done is drag my whole drawer system out. This one actually lifts off. It's a little plastic container that you can subdivide. You can get these at the Container Store. I will link these down below. But this is where I keep my foundations. You can't see, but further back are BB creams, powders, and then further back, harder to see, back here are concealers. And then in another drawer is actually all of my primers. So I think what I want to do today is focus on foundations, and we'll start there. And then we'll move our way into powders and concealers and probably primers in a different video. So I'll probably divide like face products that way. So I'm gonna start pulling these out of these containers, and then I will come back and lay them all out for you, and we will get started. Okay, I love testing out drugstore foundations. This is why I have so many of them here. But before we get into swatching, and going through all these one by one, I do want to kind of throw out two things real quickly. One, my skin type. So I think it's important when I'm giving insight and my thoughts on a foundation that you understand what I am dealing with. So I have combination skin. So I will get oily in my T-zone more in the summer than in the winter. And I will deal with dry patches more in the winter than in the summer. So I do struggle with foundations that cling to dry patches because I will typically have some in the wintertime that I am battling, and then I will struggle with foundations that break down in the summertime through my T-zone. I do struggle with the occasional acne flare-up, mostly during that time of the month, as it were, but it is not an ongoing problem per se. I am typically the fair shade in most foundations, so I'm very, very fair. One of the perfect skin matches for me is actually the Urban Decay Naked Skin in 0.5. I am going to be using this as reference throughout this video because this is such a good match for me, and I think sometimes unless you put a foundation all over your face, it's hard for you to see if it is going to fit or not. So I am going to be referencing, even as we declutter, as we declutter everything rather, I am going to be referencing the Naked Skin for swatching purposes just to keep myself straight on what's working and what's not. I do have white mixing drops that I will use if I really like a foundation, but in general, I just like the foundation to perform on its own. I don't want to play master mixologist. I don't want to have to deal with reviewing a product for you guys, but then having to turn around and say, well, really only 50% of the product was real. The other 50% was a mix-in drop. So, okay, enough intro. Let's get started. I am going to go ahead and swatch this puppy on my arm. So as we go through these, I have a frame of reference. Let's start in this back row. So I have 2 of the L'Oreal Infallible Pro Glow and 2 of the Pro Matte. I actually do like the Pro Glow on its own in the winter time. In the summertime, I actually find that this one causes me to get quite oily all over my face. And in reverse, this works pretty well in the summertime, but not well in the wintertime. And this is one of the few where I do like to play master mixologist. So a Pro Matte and a Pro Glow together gives you this beautiful satin finish that lasts all day. It's kind of my go-to work travel combo. I also like the fact for travel that these are in squeezy tubes versus a glass bottle, so easier to pack, more lightweight, don't have to worry about it breaking. Here are the swatches of these. So this first one here is Naked Skin 0.5 from Urban Decay. These 2 are the Pro Glow, so this is 201 Classic Ivory. It is their lightest shade. And then 202 Creamy Natural. And then likewise in matte, this is 101 Classic Ivory and 102 Shell Beige. So these are the 2 lightest shades here. I will say the 2 lightest shades in the Pro Glow and the Pro Matte are similar. These 2 are quite different. So this one leans a lot more sort of pinky beige, and this one has a lot more yellow in it. So I have all 4 of these because quite frankly, none of these are the exact shade match for me. If I mix these together, I can get fairly close to that. So this is one of those cases where I need the lightest and the second lightest shade, and I like to wear these both on their own and mixed together, the matte and the glow. So I am going to keep all 4 of these. Like I said, this is kind of one of my go-to travel foundations. Next up is the Lumi. This is the shade Neutral, and this is Neutral 1-2. Cool Tone does not have a 1 or a 2. It's just Cool 2, and it's way too dark on me. Neutral is neutral 1, 2, and then warm has a 1 on it, but it's way too yellow on me. So this is my closest match. The color is workable. It's just not a great match for me. My other problem with this one is I just haven't been liking how this sits on my skin. I feel like it is illuminating, so I do like that factor about it. I do like my skin to look like skin, not overly matte. But I find that this breaks down on me, and if I'm going to be totally honest, I'm just not a huge fan of this. So I do think I'm going to go ahead and pass this one along. Next is the Physicians Formula. This is in the shade Light Clair. This is their Nude Wear Touch of Glow Foundation. This, I feel, is a really close dupe in formula to the Urban Decay Naked Skin. So they smell exactly the same, they go on exactly the same, they have that same sort of thin consistency that builds to probably a medium foundation, medium. It plays really well if you're dealing with any sort of acne scarring or anything that's healing up because it doesn't cling to dry patches. This is a really lovely formula. I just feel like, let me shake it up here. I feel like the last few times I've put it on, I have just noticed it being a smidge too dark for me. So once again, that's the Urban Decay, and this is theirs in light. I could make this work with a mixer, but I don't see the sense in keeping both of them, especially because they do the same thing, and this one just does a perfect shade match. So I'm going to go ahead and pass this one along. First and foremost is this Lift and Illuminate foundation. I am in the shade Calico, which I think is their lightest shade. So this one is kind of your classic foundation formula, but it's got a little bit more slip to it and it's a little sheerer. This is the Airbrush Away foundation. This one comes in a dropper bottle, and this is a strange formula, one that I actually kind of enjoy. It doesn't feel like anything I've ever felt before. It just feels like so creamy and smooth. It doesn't feel like any foundation I've ever felt before. I'm in the shade Cool Vanilla here, which you can see is definitely more of that greigey tone that you find in a lot of Korean BB creams. I actually feel like I can wear these kinds of shades pretty well without them making me look crazy, because I do have sort of cooler to, I would say neutral to leaning cool undertones in my skin. And then this is the Stay Perfect foundation. This is a medium coverage foundation that they claim is for all day wear. And this is also in the shade Calico. So I have to be honest, I really do appreciate the true, zoom in a little bit here, the true neutral undertone of all of these foundations. I think that they are not overly warm. They're not overly cool. I mean, I just think they're very good neutral foundations. I really like all three of these for different reasons. So Lift and Illuminate is your lightest coverage foundation. It is definitely one almost like kind of like a BB cream. That's not really fair, but it really is a light coverage illuminating foundation. Plays really nicely when you have dry skin, when you have any dry patches on your skin, and I love it for that reason. The Airbrush Away foundation is good when you're dealing with flaws. So this is going to give you more of a high medium coverage. It's going to be very forgiving on acne that is healing, and I also feel like it does a really good job of lasting. I don't know how well this would play if you had super oily skin, but I think if you had normal to dry to maybe even slightly oily, I think this would work for you. It's just a really unique texture. If you can stop into your local Walgreens and actually feel this on your hand, you'll know what I mean. It just has this velvety smoothness to it that I've never encountered in another foundation, and I really like it for that reason. The Stay Perfect, which is the last one here, is actually the one that's probably the deepest of them, so it's probably not a perfect match for me. I do think it oxidizes just a smidge. However, this one is a medium coverage, and I would also say that it's not a medium that is leaning towards full coverage. It is a medium that's leaning a little bit on the lighter coverage. This puppy does not budge, but it does not budge in a way that's not mattifying. That's what's so fascinating to me about this. So if you're someone who struggles with finding a long-lasting foundation that isn't super mattifying, I would absolutely check out this Stay Perfect by Boots. I think you will be super impressed. All that to say, if you saw a trend here, I'm really impressed with the Boots foundations. Let's start down here with the e.l.f. So this is the e.l.f. Acne Fighting Foundation. It doesn't say that on the bottle. It is in the shade Porcelain. I think I think I've seen this at Target actually, the porcelain shade. It is the lightest shade they do. This actually has 0.5% salicylic acid. So this is basically salicylic acid is good for acne, but it's also a really good anti-aging ingredient. This is a beta hydroxy acid. I use Paula's Choice 2% BHA solution every morning and every night, and I swear by it. So if you like that toner, don't be turned off by the fact that this says acne fighting. It's salicylic acid. It's a beta hydroxy acid that is in tons of anti-aging skincare products. So this is actually a phenomenal anti-aging foundation as well. The formula is a little thicker, but it blends out beautifully with a brush or a beauty blender. It doesn't cling to dry patches. It doesn't break down on me. It looks like a solid high medium coverage, so it does a good job of covering acne as well. Next up is the Beautifully Bare Serum Foundation. This is in the shade Light. Yes, if you can see that, it's like incredibly watery. I just don't feel like this does much for my skin. I used it as a while as a base for like when I was playing Mad Scientist for a while, and I was mixing in Cover FX drops and some illuminating primers. To be honest, I just haven't been reaching for this, so I'm gonna pass this one along. Last up is an e.l.f. This is their Studio. I'll put it on the screen. I think it's like Studio Pro Foundation or something like that. It's in a beautiful frosted bottle with a matte black top. They just released new light shades. I had tried this probably 2 years ago and liked the formula, but couldn't wear the shade. It was so dark. This is the shade Light Ivory. It is now their lightest shade. So it's light, but it is very yellow. Once again, I like this formula. I think it's good. If you can find a shade match that works for you, awesome sauce. But every time I put this on, I just feel like I look a little bit jaundiced, and I would definitely have to mix this with other foundations in order to get a skin tone that matched me. I don't care enough to do that, to be totally honest. What about these two ordinary foundations? These are 1.0 NS, so neutral with silver highlights. I also had 1.0 N with no silvery highlights in them. I have to be honest, I can see the silvery highlights a little bit in the bottle, but it doesn't make this foundation glowy, and I actually did 1/2 with the silvery version and 1/2 with no silvery in it. I couldn't tell a difference on the skin 1 iota. This is the coverage foundation, so high coverage foundation. I would say this is not full coverage, and I don't think it builds to full coverage either. I would say this is a strong medium. This once again is the shade 1.0 NS. It is very fair, as you can see. This is the shade 1.0 NS in the Serum Foundation, which is their lightweight formula. And this is incredibly liquidy. I am still in the process of testing the Serum Foundation here. My thoughts on this high coverage foundation is that it just doesn't work for me. It really does break down. It looks okay when I put it on. It doesn't blow me away, but it breaks down on me incredibly quickly. I would say probably within 4 to 5 hours, I see breaking down on my forehead. It settles into lines. So I have not had very good luck with the full coverage version. So I am going to declutter this one. I went right towards the fuller coverage, and I've only worn this once. So I do want to hang on to this and see. Don't have a full opinion on this, passing on the full coverage one. All right, let's talk about these two from Rimmel. So this is the Match Perfection and the Lasting Finish. I really wish the US would get the European packaging, because if you buy these in London or in Europe, they actually come with a pump, so they have a different bottle. These are unfortunately in a bottle, which I don't love. The tone is a little more neutral than the Urban Decay Naked Skin that you can see swatched down below. I actually really love this formula. It's one of those ones I put on my skin and I'm like, my skin looks so freaking good every time I wear this. I don't think that this is the most long wearing foundation, but on an average day where I just need about 8 hours of wear, absolutely fine. I will say I notice I can get a smidge oily in my T-zone in the summertime after about the 6-hour mark, but nothing that a little blot and a little bit of powder won't fix. I don't mind that. And then in the wintertime, this is just lovely. So keeping this puppy. This, on the other hand, is their Lasting Finish 25-hour. This is their with Comfort Serum. Skin Perfecting Full Coverage Foundation. This is one that I actually do think you can get to full coverage. I think it starts out with a high medium and is definitely buildable. This is one of the few full coverage foundations in my mind that doesn't look cakey. And then this is also a really stinking good shade match for me. I love this foundation. This is one I've traveled with and I trust to last a good 14-hour, 15-hour day on me. I really do enjoy both of these quite a bit. I think it's fair to mention here, because I feel like I've been keep on a lot of these. Oftentimes, if I test a foundation and it doesn't work on me, it never goes in my drawer. I don't feel any compulsion to keep it. I keep ones that I think have potential, or I felt like I wasn't sure about, or I wanted to wear longer. But I've tested plenty of foundations and gone, hell no. And they've immediately gone into my donate bin to be decluttered. All that to say, you're not really seeing a lot of the like really bad foundations that I've had bad experiences with. All right, so this is the Fit Me Dewy and Smooth and the Matte and Poreless. These are from Maybelline. Once again, I wish these came with pumps. I believe the European versions do. It's ridiculous. So this is the Dewy and Smooth is in 110 porcelain. That is 110 porcelain. And then this is 112 natural ivory. So there you can see these three swatch. These are actually really good shade matches for me. So this is targeted for normal to dry, and I would agree with that. This is normal to oily, and I would agree with that. Although this says matte and poreless, this is not super mattifying. I find this to be more skin-like. So if you really need a matte formula to like combat oil, this is probably not going to be your thing. I say this is more of a natural skin finish, and this is more of a dewy skin finish. This is also more of a medium coverage, and this is more of a light coverage. I do like both of them, so I do think I'm going to keep both of them. So this is the Bourjois Healthy Mix Serum, Vanilla Claire 51. Bourjois is a brand I think I had to buy through Amazon. I think that there are other serum-y foundations that I prefer. I definitely think this is geared towards somebody with dry skin. Even normal, it might be a little too dewy. If you have dry skin and you struggle with finding something that's not going to cling to dry patches, and you're not looking for something that's going to last you like 10 hours, I think this is not a bad formula. It just doesn't rock my boat. I really expected to put this on and like have my skin be blown away by how radiant and glowy and perfect my skin looked. And it really wasn't. I think this is going to be a pass for me. I just don't love it enough to want to reach for it. And last but not least, this is the only soft Sanya Kashik one I own. It's beautiful. It's kind of got this ombre black glass bottle, this beautiful cap to it. It does come with a pump. This is their Soft Focus Stay Matte Foundation. I would argue that this isn't matte, that this is more of a natural satin sort of skin tone. I really enjoy how this looks. I think this is one where I know when I need a little bit extra coverage and I want my skin to look really smooth and really flawless, this is one I would reach for. It is more yellow based than my Urban Decay one, but I have found that it's not so yellow based that it's unwearable to me. This is more of a, I guess I would say, a true neutral undertone to it. So I didn't even tell you what shade this was. This is shade 01 Bisque. So I like this. I'm going to hang on to this one. These are my high-end foundations. So one thing I know I want to keep, I'm just going to jump into the middle here. This is the Urban Decay Naked Skin. I still feel like this is my holy grail foundation. I try a bunch of them. I really like the look of a lot of them, but every time I go and put this on, I'm always like, yes. It looks like skin. It gives me solid medium coverage. It doesn't cling to any dry patches or acne that's healing. It doesn't look cakey. It doesn't break down on me. It's a really good shade match. Like, I really love this stuff. So this isn't going anywhere. Okay, so let's start down here. So these are the two Fiona Styles foundations. This is the matte finish in this frosted container, and this is the luminous finish. Okay, so I bought the luminous finish first at Ulta, and I actually had a girl color match me, and she recommended shade 2, which is kind of strange to me because I almost always wear the lightest shade is what I'm trying to say. So this is shade 2 in the luminous foundation. This is shade 1 in the matte finish foundation. I think the Ulta associate that was swatching me had lost her ever-loving mind to try and put me in shade 2. Now, the Luminous foundation is a thinner formula. It's more luminous. It's more of a light medium coverage foundation. So it does, because it's not as thick on your skin, more of your skin shows through. Therefore, I think color matching is a little more forgiving. The matte finish foundation down here is definitely more of your high medium coverage foundation. This is not super mattifying though. I would say this is more of a natural skin finish version. So here's what I would say. I like both of the formulas of these. If Fiona Styles was still available at Ulta, I might consider going back and getting the lightest shade of Luminous, but it's not. So I'm going to pass Luminous along, and I'm going to keep the mattifying one because I don't have a ton of mattifying foundations that I like besides that Sonia Kashuk one. And I do really enjoy this one. I think the color match is pretty close to me up here. This one's just way too yellow and way too dark for me. This is the Clinique Beyond Perfecting foundation in the shade 0.5 Breeze. I do think this is their lightest shade. This one's interesting because it comes with the giant freaking doe foot at one end to kind of dot this on your face. I do think this is a really good shade match for my skin type. I really enjoy the color of this. This is one though that I found really works best with a stiffer brush. When I try and apply this with a beauty blender, I think it dries very quickly and I have a hard time blending it out. This is also one that I think can get cakey on you really fast, but if you use thin layer, blend it out, you can get a solid medium coverage that looks very skin-like. It just takes a little bit more effort. So I know a lot of people didn't like this. It's such a good shade match for me, and when I do apply it correctly, so thin layer dotted on the face, brushed out quickly, I am going to hang on to it. This is the Born This Way foundation. This is in the lightest shade that I have in called Snow. It's such a thick, high coverage looking foundation that you really need a small amount. And when you don't use a small amount, it can get cakey on you very fast. This is a pretty fair shade on me, and I would argue it's still kind of yellow. So this is supposed to be their lightest, more cool leaning shade in Snow. I would argue this is still more yellow. All of the Too Faced Born This Way foundations tend to go a little bit yellow. I gotta be honest, this is not my favorite foundation. Just don't get excited when I put this on my skin. I don't think it's Born This Way. I don't think it gives me sort of that healthy, natural skin. I think this one's gonna go. All right, so this is a MAC Pro Longwear Moisturizing Waterproof Foundation. This is another one of those ones that you need to be careful with. This is in the shade NC20. All right, so I think I'm gonna pass this on because now that I really look at this shade, I don't think it's the right one for me. This is a foundation that will freaking last. Like, this stuff is bulletproof. When they say waterproof, they are not kidding. It doesn't budge. You do have to be careful in the application, not put too much on. I do prefer this sheared out with a beauty blender. Or a two-step combo where I put it on with a brush and then blend it out secondarily with a beauty blender, because it can get cakey on you really freaking fast. But if you can get a thin layer, blend it out all over your face evenly, and then build in certain areas where you might need it, and apply it carefully, you can get a foundation that you could literally, it just does not budge. Like, you can trust this thing not to budge. When they say that it is a long wear, waterproof, they are not freaking lying. This is one I'd be tempted to go back in and try and get color matched for. Let's swatch this other MAC foundation next to that one just because it's in the same line. This is the Studio Water Weight SPF 30 foundation. I actually really enjoy this. This is an NC15. So this should be significantly lighter. It is very serum-y. This to me is an example of a good serum foundation that gives you still, I would say, a light medium coverage, but blends out really effortlessly on the skin. I really do enjoy this one. I like that it has SPF 30 in it, a little bit of extra sunscreen. I think it is a good lightweight summer one where you don't want to feel like you're wearing a ton of makeup. So I really enjoy that. I am definitely going to keep this guy. All right, up next are my custom cover drops from Cover FX. This is an N20. I fell into the YouTube hype on this one, thinking that I was going to use this in everything to intensify coverage, to put it in my BBCC creams, to put it in my moisturizers. Like, I fell into the YouTube hype of like, everybody's gotta love this, and to be honest, I barely reached for it. So to me, this was kind of a waste. I know plenty of people who said they loved it. I would also say that it started out as drops, but then probably within 6 months, kind of got gloopy on me. And that's kind of the state it's in now, and I haven't reached for it as a result. I don't necessarily think that this is something I am going to be using and probably won't be repurchasing. So decluttering this guy. And then last foundation here is from J Manuel Beauty. You can get this on HSN. So if you're familiar with J Manuel, he's the one who was on Project Runway for a very long time. He's come out with a beauty line. This is his foundation. I am in the shade Light Filter 2. My problem with this foundation is this packaging is for crap. So it doesn't stay on. The pieces fall apart super easily. Like, the packaging is cool and unique looking, but it really is a hot mess. Like, the packaging gets like, it's a hot mess. It completely flakes out on me. So the color match is actually really freaking good. And I really do like how this looks on my skin. I think this is a solid, medium coverage foundation. It looks like skin. It doesn't break down on me. So, you know, will I repurchase this? Probably not, because the packaging irritates the absolute poop out of me. I do really like the color though, and I really do like how it looks on my skin. So I will be keeping this, just maybe not repurchasing it in the future. So before we move into cushion compacts, I did remember that I had one more foundation that I had recently purchased that was in my everyday makeup drawer. This is the Tarte Rainforest of the Sea foundation. This is in the shade Porcelain. This is a liquidy foundation. It has a lot of slip in it. This color is a little light on me, to be totally honest. It's not bad. I'm gonna keep playing around with this. Like I said, this is newer to my collection. I don't have the same problem with this out of the gate that I did with the Makeup Forever Ultra HD, as well as the Wet n Wild Photo Focus foundation, which have a similar consistency. Those clung to every dry patch that I had on my skin, and ones that I didn't even know existed, and then had a tendency to settle into fine lines and wrinkles as well. I just haven't fully made up my mind about this. Okay, so these are my cushion compacts. I put this one in this section just because it had a round container as well. This is heavy as heck. This is the Color Stay Whipped from Revlon. This is their cream makeup. And this is supposed to be their fuller coverage foundation. I'm in the shade 150 Buff Chamois, and it is kind of a whipped texture. It feels very velvety on the skin. It definitely builds to a full coverage foundation. I was actually shocked. I didn't think I was going to like this. I wish they would take something like this and put it in a more user-friendly container, because I don't consider this to be a user-friendly container. Okay, I can already tell you I'm not going to get rid of any of these, but I'm gonna kind of talk you through what's here and why I like them. So let's start with the two drugstore ones. The Lumi cushion was the first drugstore one that came out. This is in the shade W2. I love the Lumi cushion. I love how this looks on my skin. It's super glowy. It's a great shade match for me, and I think it just looks flawless on my skin. This is one I love when I want a very light, no makeup look on my skin. The Maybelline Dream Cushion, newer to my collection. This is in the shade 10, Porcelain. This one is more full coverage. And I think you can see that even from the swipes that I've just done on my skin. This is still not going to give you like a ton of coverage, and it is going to still leave your skin with a very natural looking glow to it. But I like this when I want that glow, but I want maybe a smidge more coverage. Now, I will say that these are pretty expensive. The interesting thing about Korean BB creams, which are these two over here, you are getting, let's see, half an ounce of in these cushions. So typically a bottle of foundation is going to be 1 ounce. So you're getting half that, and you're paying $14 approximately for each of these. So this is pretty much like a $28 to $30 foundation. So we're in high-end land in these foundations, in my opinion, unless you can get them on sale. The interesting thing is when you buy Korean BB creams, they tend to come with a backup cartridge. So you're getting a half an ounce in the original container, but you're also getting a second backup cartridge to put into this when you're done. So they're giving you a full ounce in Korea. So I kind of feel like the American companies looked at what Korea was doing, and A, didn't want to have to deal with how they were going to bundle an extra cartridge at the drugstore, and then also just felt like, maybe we can get Americans to buy these for $14 and only get a ½ ounce of foundation. So this is from Misha. This is their Magic Cushion SPF 50. I love that it has SPF 50 in it. The challenge with Korean BB creams Korean cushions is they have very limited shade range because they are designed for Koreans, and Koreans probably have, on average, they could get away with 6 colors and kind of light to medium and be done. So this is the shade 21 from Misha. This has a ton more coverage than these. This goes on almost like a BB cream. So this is one that is incredibly natural looking on my skin, but is definitely I would say this is a strong medium coverage foundation, maybe even buildable beyond that. So I like this cushion. So if we're going to go and scale from very light coverage to kind of light medium to solid medium, that is kind of where this falls in the range. This is one that I bought in Korea. The compact on this is stunning. This is from a brand called Ohai. I'm probably pronouncing that incorrectly. And this one also has pretty decent coverage. Probably not as good as the Misha one. I am in shade 01, and you can see it's a very good shade match for me. I would say this one is more in line coverage-wise with the Maybelline Dream Lumi or Dream Cushion. I like the 4 that I have, so I won't be letting any of those go. All right, let's talk stick foundations. I have 3. They are all high-end foundations. The first one that I ever bought was this Makeup Forever Ultra HD foundation stick. I am in the shade Y225 or 117. I always forget which is the more current foundation color. I flippin' love this stuff. It just blends into the scents seamlessly. You can use a brush. I've used a beauty blender. I really freaking love this. The shade is a little yellow on me, but not bad. It's creamy. I don't think this is the most long wearing foundation. I mean, I can get a solid 8 or 9 hours out of it, but much beyond that, unless I'll probably have to blot and reapply powder to make it really effective. I love this in the wintertime especially. It is so good on dry skin or drier, normal to dry skin. I love this. This is my date night foundation. This makes my skin just look so freaking flawless. So if I'm going out to dinner or any events or weddings or anything, this is almost always what I put on my face because I just think my skin looks gorgeous. The next stick foundation I bought was actually from Lancome. This is the Tint Idol Ultra Wear Makeup Stick SPF 21. I am in the shade 110 Ivory Cool. This has more of a velvety texture to it, whereas this one feels more serumy. This one is a almost perfect shade match for me though, and I really do like how this looks on my skin. I don't think it gives that sort of lit from within glow the way this one does. This is more of a natural finish, whereas this is more of a sort of glow finish in my opinion. But I really do like how this goes on. It's a very expensive foundation because you're not getting a ton for the money, so in that respect I have a hard time like saying yes, run out and buy this, but I think most stick foundations are that way. It builds nicely to probably a high medium coverage, so I love this one. This is the Hourglass, what do they call this? The Pore Vanish Stick, I think is what these are called. This is in the shade Alabaster. The shade match is gorgeous. This is the most high coverage foundation stick that I own. This is one that can be a little tricky to work with because I find it to be it can be very drying. The finish is beautiful, but you have to be very careful with it. Make sure your skin is really well moisturized, or this can look cakey. This is one that's probably newest to my collection, and if I'm being very honest, I need to play around with it some more. I've worn this and I have loved it. I've worn this and I've hated it, and I still haven't quite figured out why that is the case. Whereas I feel like the other 2 foundation sticks we just talked about were a little more foolproof. This one needs a little bit of something, and I haven't quite figured out what that something is. Like I said, I think I've worn this 3 or 4 times at this point, so I'm gonna definitely keep playing around with it. It gets major bonus points for packaging. It is gorgeous. But yeah, that's about all I can share about this one at this point. I reapplied my Urban Decay Naked Skin because I had to wash my hands and I washed it off. I will say, I think just while filming this video, the Urban Decay Naked Skin seems to oxidize on my hand a little bit. I haven't noticed this oxidizing quite that bad on my hand, but I did, or on my face rather, so I did reapply this, so we're kind of true to tone with the Urban Decay Naked Skin in 0.5. These are my BB creams and my CC creams. This is the IT Cosmetics CC Plus cream. This is the regular one. They have an illuminating one as well. I am in the shade Fair. It comes with a pump. If you have been following any makeup channel for any period of time, you will know this is like holy grail status for a ton of people, and with good reason. This is, for all intensive purposes, formulated like a Korean BB cream. So it has a lot more coverage. I would say this is a solid medium coverage. It has a lot of skincare benefits in it. So that to me is the primary difference between a lot of American and Korean BB creams. They have the skincare benefits, and then it also has a good medium coverage as well. So it's not a tinted moisturizer. None of these are tinted moisturizers. Just always one of those ones that looks like skin and really makes your skin look healthy. I don't notice it breaking down on me. It's just a really nice CC cream. It's totally worth the hype out there. So clearly this is going nowhere. This is Bare Minerals. This is Complexion Rescue. This is SPF 30. They say this is a tinted hydrating gel cream. This to me is more of a tinted moisturizer, but it has this really interesting mousse-like texture that is very lightweight and not drying at all. It has an illuminating property to it. This is in the shade 01 Opal. I like this when I want a very light coverage foundation. This is kind of my go-to tinted moisturizer. I really do enjoy this one quite a bit. I got my mom hooked on this one. It gives a nice natural glow to your skin, so it definitely is illuminating. So if you have dry skin and you want something light coverage, I would highly encourage you to put this out. It also has this interesting kind of cooling feeling on the skin. Like it just feels good going on too. So blends out good with your fingers. Oh my gosh, bad grammar. Blends out well with your fingers or a sponge. So yeah, this is just a really easy go-to travel kind of product for me. So hanging on to this. This is my CoverGirl Clean Matte BB Cream. It says it's for oily skin. I have heard oily skin girls say that this works incredibly well on them. When I look at the claims as well as the ingredients in here, I don't find any reason that this should be called a beauty balm, BB cream at all. Like there's absolutely no skincare benefits in here. There's no SPF. It's really just a foundation, in my opinion. This is the lightest shade, and this is the shade 510 Fair. As with almost all of the CoverGirl foundations, the lightest shade is what I would consider to be a light shade, not a fair shade. I've gotten this to work, but I always feel like the tone is a little bit off. It is really pretty. It's a very pretty foundation. It goes on like a BB cream, so in that respect, I see why they're calling it that. I just feel like calling something a BB cream when there's absolutely no skincare benefits in it at all is a little misleading. Just my opinion, but I am going to declutter it just because the shade range or the shade match is so far off on me. All right, so this is the Neutrogena Hydra Boost. This is a new foundation out for them. This has hyaluronic acid in it. It says moisturizes and plumps skin for 24 hours. I am in the shade number 20, Natural Ivory. This is the only Neutrogena foundation I own. It is very similar to the Clinique foundation we just looked at with a giant doe foot applicator. This one is actually really pretty. I would say this gives you a light medium coverage. I thought it was going to be more like a tinted moisturizer, but it gives you a little bit more coverage than this. This is really pretty on the skin. I do think it is hydrating. I do think that people with oily skin, this is probably something you should stay away from. It feels kind of like a gel moisturizer hydration, if that makes sense. So I really like this. It's newer to my collection and I want to play around with it some more. So I'm going to keep this one. Okay, last but not least in the US category, this is the Urban Decay Naked Skin One and Done. This is a hybrid complexion perfector. This is in the shade Light. So this is a very thin formula. I would argue this is kind of a almost like a tinted moisturizer. It looks like it's giving you decent coverage there, but to be honest, when you blend it out, it really does blend away to very, very minimal coverage. The color is so far off on me, though I can't really wear it, and it doesn't really give me a whole lot of coverage. It is not as illuminating as the Bare Minerals one. I've heard a lot of people really like this. This one just wasn't for me. Talk about all of my BBCC creams from Korea. So this is Holika Holika. This is Natural Beige Sweet Cotton Pore Cover BB. This is one, if I remember correctly, that was meant to be a little thicker and a little more coverage and smoothing for pores. I'm gonna have to put this in my try pile because I can't count this as part of my keep or declutter. I'm just gonna move this one to my closet as part of my try. I know it's kind of a cop-out, but I can't remember this one. It fell in the back of the drawer. I think I used it once, so my bad. Putting this one back. This is one from Etude House. I picked this up while I was in Korea. This is their BB Cream Precious Minerals. I also bought their primer in this. I really enjoy the primer. This one, it says Blooming Fit Whitening Anti-Wrinkle Anti-Darkening. It has SPF 30 in it. I just did not have very good luck with this one. I felt like it settled into fine lines. It broke down on me a little bit. So this one I'm probably gonna pass on to see if somebody else enjoys it. Or this is my favorite Misha BB, I believe. This is the Perfect Cover BB. This is number 21. This has SPF 42 in it. This is actually developed to help people who were healing from getting like laser treatments and things like that on their skin. So this was actually developed by doctors who are looking for a product to put on skin, or product to put on their patients' faces that was going to give them decent coverage, but was also going to help the healing and anti-aging process. So this has a ton of really good skincare ingredients in there. This is probably the one, if you were interested in starting out with Korean BB creams, I would start you here. It is more of that neutral to greigey undertone that is a lot of BB creams are known for in the UK or in Korea. I find that I can wear this kind of shade really well. I believe they have 5 or 6 shades in this range, so I really do enjoy this one. Want to keep it. The next one is one that I've done a lot of wear tests on. This is the Misha Signature Real Complete BB Cream SPF 25, so not as much SPF. The packaging on this is gorgeous. This one has more anti-aging benefits in it and is more expensive, so it has a lot more skincare ingredients in it than the one we just talked about. But as far as how they go on, they are very, very similar. I think give a similar effect to the skin. It's just a matter of, do you want their more, you know, they're kind of, I would say, their entry point BB cream, or do you want one that has a little bit more oomph to it? This is their, like I said, this is their signature line, and you can see, you know, the elevation in both packaging, and then as you read the ingredients, you can definitely see more expensive and anti-aging ingredients. I really do enjoy both of these. I'm going to hang on to these. Okay, this is also from Misha. This is part of their signature line as well. So this is an interesting one. This is the Signature Wrinkle Fill Up BB Cream. This is in the shade 21 as well. 21 tends to be the shade that I buy in all of the Misha foundations. I don't know if you can see this, but it has kind of a swirl to it. So it has kind of a anti-aging, kind of plumping primer formula in the white, and then the pigment and the foundation in the other layer. This is one that I remember really liking, but to be honest, I haven't used it in a while. This one is thinner and is more like a, I don't want to say tinted moisturizer, but it is the most hydrating out of all 3 of these. So if you really struggle with dry skin, this might be one you want to try. I mean, all of these are good, I think, for dry skin, but this one probably has the most hydration. Definitely hanging on to the 3 of these. Okay, so this is the Holika Holika Petite Aqua Jelly, or Aqua Petite Jelly BB. This is the most interesting face product I own. I've been seeing more and more reviews of this lately. I've had mine for a little while. If you can see in there, it is truly like a jelly in there, and it comes with this little spatula. This is in the shade, I can't find the shade. I'm gonna look it up because I believe I got this on Amazon. I'll put it up there on the screen for you. It's incredibly hydrating, I feel like, when I put it on the skin. That shade is pretty off on me now that I look at it. I'm gonna look up the shade I got and see if there's a lighter version out there. This one's just a little too orange on my skin. I'm gonna declutter this one. This may be one I buy, repurchase in a lighter shade. If you struggle with oily skin and you want a BB cream and the benefits of one of those things, I'd give this one a check. I've been hearing really great things for your oily skin girls. So, okay, real quick summary on foundations before we go. I'm decluttering 30% of what I had, so I'm feeling pretty good about that. I will also say there's a few more that I am testing that I may come back and change my mind on and go ahead and declutter those. We shall see. But for the time being, I'm okay with what I've got. I like what I've got for different reasons and for different finishes. So let's move on to powders, and then we'll do concealers after that.